Hello and welcome to Bright Excel Campus. In this short video, we are going to deal with relative and absolute referencing in Microsoft Excel. Relative and absolute references, what are they and how do you use them? There are two types of cell references in Microsoft Excel. There's relative and absolute. It's important to note that relative and absolute references behave differently when formulas are copied and filled to other cells. Relative references change when a formula is copied to another cell, while absolute references always remain constant no matter where they are copied. Let's dive into an exercise and see how relative and absolute references work. Hello, in this short video tutorial, I'm going to deal with what is known as a relative reference and absolute reference in Excel. These are two principles that every Excel user must know because they are very important in copying formulas. Very, very important. Now, let's start with relative reference. What is relative reference? Before we even deal with that, let me just refresh every user some already known facts about the Excel layout. These boxes you see in Excel are called cells. Now, each cell has an address or a name, and the name or address of every cell is given by the column in which it is found and the row in which it is. For instance, if I click, by the way, this box actually reflects the active cell. Wherever you click, that's your active cell. So wherever you are in terms of a cell, you are actually in a certain column and in a certain row. For instance, the active cell right now is in column B and row number 2. So you will find when you check this top part of your spreadsheet, you will see where the name actually is indicated, meaning that I am in cell B2. If I click there, I'm now in column A, but row number 2, so the cell name is A2. If I click in row number 3, and the cell in row number 3, and it's in column A, so the name is A3. Now, Excel uses that principle in dealing with calculations. It calculates using the cell names or the cell addresses. For instance, we have a simple budget here. It's a simple budget of sugar, salt, and the rest of the stuff. We have the quantities and the unit price in dollar. Now we want to know the total, for instance, of sugar. The total amount that we are going to spend in terms of dollars. You click where you want your total to appear, start your formula with an equal. You click the first value. I've clicked the value 8, but in the formula, it is saying C6, meaning that it is calculating, it is now going to deal with the number that is in C6. Then I use the multiplication operator, the asterisk, and multiplied by 27. So the formula that Excel now is recording is that it is going to multiply what is in cell C6 and B6. You can even see that in your formula bar. And you click enter. So your total value is 216. However, when you check your formula bar up there, you find that this 216 is arrived at by the multiplication of two cell names, C6 and B6. Now, I know in starting a formula, some people would start with plus. This used to be a Lotus 1, 2, 3 idea. Plus 8, plus you click 8 and say multiplication multiplied by 27. But see what Excel will still do to your formula. Now you started with a plus, but when you check the formula bar, Excel still adds the equal sign. So the standard way in Excel, just start your formula with an equal. And then you click your first value multiplied by that. Excel is still able to recognize that plus you use because it knows it's an operator. It means that there's a function that is going to be used. So it simply adds an equal. But the standard way is to start with an equal sign. Okay, that's done. Now, we know that in Excel, as in reference to our budget here, budget item, what we have done to sugar is the same thing that we're going to do to salt. It's the same operation we're going to do with the toothpaste, cornflakes, and the rest of the stuff. So instead of restarting the formula again, as in equal that number multiplied by that number, and go on that way, supposing you have 1,000 items. So that's where relative referencing now comes in. With relative reference, because you know that the same operation that you've done for sugar is the same operation that you're going to do for the rest. So all you do is copy this formula, bring your mouse to the filler, the bottom right corner until it turns into a plus, left click and drag. And the rest is done. Or if you want to do that operation like a pro, take your mouse, let it turn into a plus, and just simply double click. Of course, that is not required, so you just simply delete. So the operation is done. Now, this is what we call relative reference, meaning you have copied the formula that you used on sugar onto other items. However, when you click the second item, you'll find that the formula changes to C7 to B7. C7 times B7. When you click 300 here for toothpaste, the formula changes to C8 multiplied by B8. What that means, the formula is changing relative to the position of the cells that are being multiplied. That is where the idea or the principle of relative referencing comes in. The formula is copied down, however, it is relative to the position of the cells, the cell addresses of the two or the cells that are involved in the formula. If you double click here, it will show you that it's multiplying 27 and 8. You come to the next one, you double click it. So the formula changes relative to the position of the actual cells that are being operated on. I hope that is clear. After we do that, then let's get the grand total in dollars. There are 3 ways that you can do the multiplication or getting the grand total. You click where the grand total is, go to your Excel ribbon, to the Home tab, and you'll find this character here, the auto sum. Click it, and then it will highlight what it's going to add together. If you think it has left out some value, you can still re-highlight just to be sure. And you click enter or return, and your total is there. Another method is where you use the keyboard combination of the Alt and the equal sign. You click where your grand total is supposed to be, press the Alt key on your keyboard and the equal sign. You still achieve the same result. Or if you want, you can simply highlight the figures or the values that the range of cells that will be operated on, and then use the AutoSum. You still achieve the same thing. I hope that's an extra tip that helps you. Now, that is relative referencing. Now let's go to absolute referencing. What is absolute referencing? Now we'll use the same table of our simple budget to demonstrate how absolute referencing works. Now, our total values are in US dollars. Now we want the budget to be reflected in the local currency. At the top here, we are given the exchange rate. The exchange rate per dollar for $1 is 18 kwacha 0.5. So now let's convert our dollars to kwacha. Now, usually our first instinct is to try to use relative referencing. The way we copied the formulas when we were calculating the total, the relative referencing, that becomes our first instinct. We would say, of course, 216 will multiply by the exchange rate, which is in E3, and enter. You press return, and then you try to copy. And then you realize, whilst it worked for the first value, it doesn't work for the rest. Because when you double click the first value, it will show you which two numbers are involved, to say which two cells are involved. There's this cell and that cell. But when you come to the next one, you double click, it will show you, because that's how relative referencing does. It begins to move relative to the position. If on one cell it moves one position down, the other one also moves one position down. This is where absolute referencing comes in handy. So we know that every value here will be multiplied by the exchange rate. 216 times multiplied by 18.5. 260 multiplied by 18. All these values will be multiplied by the same exchange rate. So this is how it is done. You start your formula, say equal 216, okay, multiplied by the exchange rate. You click the exchange rate. Then you know that this value, this exchange rate, that's what each one of the rest of the values in the budget will be multiplied by. So you make that exchange rate, the cell for that exchange rate, absolute or fixed. So how do you do that? This is where the function key F4 on your keyboard comes in. You find this at the top of the keys on your keyboard, whether it's on a laptop or a desktop. On a laptop, at times, certain laptops or certain systems will allow you to just press the F4 and it works. But others, you have to use it in combination with the function, the Fn function key, which is usually next to your control key on your keyboard. But on the desktop, you press it on its own. Just press it on its own, F4. So, if you want to see the effect, I'm using a laptop and I'll press F4 without the function key. It shows me that it's doing something else. So what do? I use a combination. I press down the function key, the key next to the control key, and press the F4 key. When I do that, the cell address for the exchange rate has additional characters. The dollar characters are added. That now tells us that that cell is now locked. It is now fixed. It is now absolute. If I copy down that formula, all the other values will refer to the locked value. So I'll press return, enter. Now I can copy down my formula. And now you can see that it works. If I click on the first one, for sugar, double click, it will show me that it's multiplying this value and that value. If I come to the next one, it will show me that I'm multiplying this value and that value. And that is how absolute referencing works. It is very essential when you are doing things like taxes, or you want to add commission, because now, if for instance the exchange rate changes here from 18.5 to 21 kwacha, you'll find that even the kwacha value in my budget are updated automatically. This helps to save a lot of time. It is very amateurish to multiply each and every value with the exchange rate as a static number. Because when the exchange rate changes, it means you have to go back and change on everything else. But if you have it in one place and you use absolute referencing, it will update automatically. All you need is change in one place and the update is effected easily and simply, and the intended result is achieved. As an Excel user, relative referencing and absolute referencing is a must to know. Thank you for listening.